Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to talk about MGTOW in society because here's the thing. I'm MGTOW and I am in society. And there's a lot of struggle and problems that come in as a result of this. And I know that you guys are MGTOW and you are out there in the world. Let me ask you, can you recognize another MGTOW on sight? I can't really recognize them on sight, all right? How about when they start to speak in public? Now, this is a little tricky because here's the thing. Men don't speak in public anymore because they know if they tell the truth, if they say what they really think and what they really feel, that they will be shut down and kicked out of the group. They'll be fired. They'll be canceled, okay? So what I'm experiencing is I have to keep my mouth shut, right? So if I'm in a group and some women ask, it's just not fair that WNBA players get paid less than NBA players. Or they ask the question, why is that? And everybody knows the answer, right? Because the men are 10 times better and they're actually worth watching. Whereas the women, it's just kind of like, amateur hour. It really is. And they want to, and if you put that out there, you'll be torn down. You'll be ripped to pieces, okay? So I had this encounter, with your typical woman. It's an interesting thing to say right there, isn't it? Because they're all just such special, unique snowflakes, and they all just deserve so much individual consideration, right? So at some point we're talking about cars, right? Just the subject of cars come up and, the idea of repairing an engine and things like that. And the girl steps forward and she says, oh yeah, I can repair an engine. And I look at her, and a couple of the other guys look at her and say, oh yeah, what are you, a mechanic? Are you trained in this area? Have you worked in this area? She says, no, she hasn't. I say, okay. So why do you say this? Why do you say that you could repair an engine, right? And her answer is because her brothers did. And she used to hang around. She would help sometimes, she would go get them a wrench or something like that. So naturally, she could just do this also, just like inherently. Because why? Because anything a man can do, a woman can do better, right? So these are the type of thoughts. This is the perspective from the world that you're interacting with, right? So I decide to, go a little further with this. So I ask her, do you know how to play chess? She says, no, I don't. And I ask her, do you think that you could play chess? And she says, oh yeah, absolutely. I could play chess. And I ask her, well, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that you could learn how to play chess? Or do you mean that you could just, by virtue of the fact that some man is capable of doing it, that you could do it as well? And, this is where it started getting a little touchy, right? And her honest answer was no, she could just do it. Now, this is not completely unique to just women, right? Like I was talking about playing the guitar with a young man, and he said, yeah, I could play the guitar. And I said, well, does that mean that you can play the guitar or that you potentially could play the guitar? And he says, oh, no. This means that I potentially could play the guitar. And so I asked, well, do you think that you could be like a master at the guitar? And how long do you think it would take you? And the answer was, and then I brought up Jimi Hendrix. And the answer was, oh, yes, absolutely. I could become a master guitar player, and it would probably only take me a few months. So I asked him, I said, well, what about the fact that it takes other people a lifetime, 10, 20 years, and they still have a lot to learn? They're still not as good as they want to be. And he suggested that was no problem, that he was a special, unique snowflake, and that he could just breeze right through it. So what it came down to in almost all of these cases was the idea that potentially they could do a thing. They could be a top-of-the-line engineer. They could be a chess player. They could be a master guitar player, right? But they're not, and they don't have any other accomplishment in their lives to like back that up. Like, well, I'm a great painter, so I suppose I could take that same discipline that I've applied towards painting and apply it towards carpentry, and I could become a great carpenter. And it's like, yeah, no doubt, right? Because these are character traits. These are qualities of the individual that could be applied. But that's not what we're dealing with, is it? Okay? We're not even dealing with people who are educated. We're not dealing with people who are disciplined. Can't you just look at somebody and say to yourself, well, this person hasn't taken care of themselves for 5 years. This person hasn't watched their diet for 20 years. This person doesn't care about a whole level of things. Potentially they could, so you could be, a great violinist. You really could. You could be one of the greatest violinists in the world. You are free to do that. You can go out and pick up a violin and start to play, start to practice. But you're going to have to put in, 5, 10 years or whatever in order to get that good. This is a fundamental difference, isn't it? What I'm suggesting is that we're walking around in a world with people who live in fantasy, who live in the area of I could do something, not I can do something, not I have done something, but potentially I could do something, okay? That's not enough. As a man, you know that the fact that you could do a bit of work, like you could go out and clean up the yard, and the fact that you did, or someone actually went out and cleaned up the yard, these are two totally different things. So when I speak in public, I am obligated to tell what I believe to be the truth. So if somebody stands up and says, look, a biological man can become a biological woman and a biological woman can become a biological man, how am I supposed to just not say anything when somebody says that? Now, it's become so common, that particular refrain, that I really do have to keep quiet, don't I? So we're dealing with non-reality. We're dealing with fantasy. We're dealing with imagination. We're dealing with people's emotions. Can you play the guitar? I could play the guitar, but it doesn't mean that they can play the guitar. Can you do this job? I could do this job. And it's not that they can do the job. It's the idea that somebody else can do the job and they're just as good as anybody else. So you see how this crept in to our cultural mindset, right? We're all winners. We all get an A. Well, of course, that destroys the motivation of the people who did get an A. And of course, that does not motivate any of the people who were getting Fs and who wanted to improve because now they're just being given the A. So it's this mindset of a pure child, pure fantasy. And you, as a man, you really can't afford that. I can't afford that. All right. I have to actually do the job. I actually have to get the work done. I actually have to make the video. It's not a world of imagination for the man. It's a material world. I want you to understand how this mindset undercuts actual productivity and merit and actual accomplishment. All right. Because what are we going to do? Are we going to train everybody to be master guitar player? Some people have no talent for it. Some people have no inclination for it. Some people don't care about it. But we could all be master guitar players. No, we cannot. So the very basis of a man's reality has been undercut. This isn't merely an individual instance. This is in all areas that this is happening. I want to introduce something else that we're dealing with, MGTOW men, just honest, truthful, men in society. I'm not exactly sure how to present this idea, but what if every decent female quality was labeled as toxic? What if everything that any woman could do was denigrated and belittled and trashed, such that a woman might stand up and say, yeah, I made the place nice. I cleaned it up and I prettied it up a little bit so that it's got a nice little feminine touch going on there. And what if everybody, men and women, said, that's toxic, that's disgusting, you have no right to do that. How abusive of you to have any sort of a feminine quality. And so she might stand up one day and say, I feel happy or I feel sad. And everybody around her would look at her and say, well, your feelings are invalid. It doesn't matter what you feel because you're a toxic blight on society. And we need to get rid of this perspective, this mindset, this way of looking at the world, such that people like you will have no place in our world. Okay? What if we did that for everything that a woman said and did? That's what's happening with the men. Unless the man stands up and starts to cry and put out a whole bunch of feminine qualities, he's getting ripped down. Believe me, I know this, okay? Because I've made the mistake of doing this. Speak outright. Speak the truth. Speak it loud, and they will put you in jail. They will find a reason to destroy you and to destroy your life. Unless you have a certain amount of power and strength and, public credibility, public currency, then you might be able to maneuver out of it. But if you're just a regular man, like me, like most men, and you become outspoken and you stand your ground and you're masculine, well, you're in a lot of trouble. And so the men are walking around and they can't be true to themselves. They cannot be true to their nature. And this is a crime, and this is a sin. And if you're doubting what I say, explain the idea that mothers want to give their male children puberty blockers so that they will not develop into young men. And so, and they say that this is so that when they're 18, they can choose what gender they wish to be. But that's not true. And everybody with any sense knows that's not true. You've destroyed their natural development, and you will never be able to set it back on course. And yet, this is exactly what our society does. This is exactly, what is considered normal. So this is what we're walking around in, right? And I don't want to illustrate this too graphically, I'll just beat around the bush, so you're a father and your wife wants to give your son puberty blockers, right? What do you say? What do you do? You see, even the idea of this is, it's evil, right? It's unhealthy. It's sick, right? So even to bring up the question is like, why would you thwart the natural biological development of this person? Why would you do that? And of course the answer is it's ideological, it's political, right? Identity has become ideological and political. It could be based on anything. It could be based on patriotism. It could be based on financial success. It could be based on religion. But no, it's political. It's ideological. And it's insane. And it's crazy. And it's destructive towards the men. So I just wanted to say, I know what you're going through. I know what you're dealing with, okay? I know that they're expecting you to adopt this female attitude that will make any man sick, right? So you've got to walk around smiling and nodding like you're going along with this bullshit. And at the same time, you have to become strong and firm and disciplined within yourself as a man, which means essentially turning away from all that kind of bullshit, right? And getting the job done regardless of all that bullshit. Here's the problem, is that they're going to pile up so much bullshit in front of what you're trying to do that you're not going to get it done, nor are you going to have the motivation to get it done. I feel pretty bad because I'm out here talking about the problems that the men are facing, but I don't have the actual solutions. I'm going through it and saying to myself, man, this sucks. What the hell is going on here? How is any man expected to overcome this kind of bullshit? And I don't have the answer, right? So I'm on here and I'm talking about the situation. My subscribers are thinking, well, this isn't really helping us, Howard. This is actually, you're complaining about a situation that we're already aware of, and it's making it worse. So I apologize. Now, with that in mind, please find my Cash App donation link. Click on my Cash App donation link. Make a small donation to the channel. Make a large donation to the channel. This will help me to get through these issues and then to give, what I'm thinking over to you guys. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, and join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.